21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
So Alyssa is a software that helps non-technical creators put up online courses that look amazing on any web platform, and you really don't need a developer for that. Have been an online course creator for the past almost a decade now, and I am not technical. And the process of having to go through a developer to make any little change was so frustrating, let's just say, that I put forces together with my partner to create what I think is really a better model. Because there are a lot of platforms that will help you put up an online course on the interwebs without the help of a developer. But the issue that I found with most of them is the fact that you will have to maintain a separate website, what we call a subdomain. And I didn't want that. It just felt like it was not a congruent experience for my clients. I wanted them to stay on my website and go here for the course and go there for something else. And I wanted to not only offer a course, but offer other things that they can do. Like book a private session with one of our consultants. That's just a simple example. That other platforms, there was just no way you could do that. You have to make them go from one platform to the other platform and, hop around. And I didn't like that idea at all. And so Alyssa really was born because I was trying to scratch my own itch. It had to be easy, it had to look good, and I wanted it to just go on any website with just including a little bit of a line of code, which is like a one-liner, and put that in your header and you're done. So Alyssa really was born for that reason, and I really implore any non-technical creator that wants to have an online course and have it on their website on their term to just come check us out.
And any analogs and antilogs regarding your competitors? Did you saw something that was very good and you implemented, or antilog as you did something completely different?
So we've definitely learned from the competitors, and we are also at the same time the only platform that is set up so that the course can be embedded into any site. And this is what I mean by that. Like most of the other sites, you have to make your own subdomain. It's like feature rich and you can go in and do whatever you want, but you can only really have a course on your site and that's it. Or if you are very technical or have a really good developer that can work with you, then you can put together a website on WordPress and use all of these different things. But the WordPress course plugins, the backend becomes really messy, really fast. That's what we were using before because we had a lot of custom features that we wanted to be able to offer our clients. And so the other platforms weren't cutting it. So we did a custom WordPress site and it was supposed to be easy, right? But the backend just is a disaster. And to make a change to the course, I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. Like, I can figure this out. Yes, I can do this. And it's just a big process so that's what Alyssa was really born to help solve. Was the course is right here. You're not clogging up and making tons of posts and pages and whatever to be able to host your post or host your course on your WordPress site. It's just like, no, just drop this code into this area and this course will show to the design specs that you've specified. So you're actually controlling the course on our app. So you're not bogging down the back end of WordPress. So it works with WordPress, it works with Shopify, with Weebly, with Squarespace, with Duda. Yeah, so in that sense, we've created something that is very different.
And how do you see it continuing to grow and evolve?
Very good question. I don't think everybody ever asked us that. We are currently, I don't know if into what depth I can say this, but we are currently working with some web platforms privately to develop kind of exclusive integrations, if you will, because there are some web platforms that don't have any ability to add on online courses. And so we've been talking and we're doing that. And so that I think is going to be a really big part of what we do, because we will kind of be the sole way of, or at least for now, for the time being, putting up online courses through them. And then there are these platforms that already have multiple ways, like WordPress. WordPress has plenty of ways that you course plugins, if you will. However, like as I said, the backend becomes so busy and disastrous so fast. And oh my God, I'm a little bit of OCD in terms of like organizing. And when something just looks like it's just spinning out of control, like I really try to like figure out how to keep this contained and nicer so that my brain can like wrap around what is happening. And I couldn't do that with WordPress. Like I have a lot of courses too, so it was just becoming too much. But like when we moved all of our courses to Alish, it was no longer an issue. And so I think whether you are even platforms that are well established like WordPress, people, when they find us, they're like, oh my gosh, this is different, so they're pleasantly surprised with what actually is possible, because it's very different from the WordPress plugin model. We were in a very fortunate position to be able to self-fund Alish in a way where, from our other business. And so we've been working on it for a while, and we didn't take any outside money. We do have a few employees, like a couple of full-time developers, and we have a full-time assistant with us. And then we do have some more temporary contract bases. I shouldn't say temporary, but contractors working to help us. So we have some contractors in the development area, and we have some contractors for our content and other areas as well. So that's kind of like the makeup of our team.
Let's go to you as a entrepreneur. So what was the most difficult thing you encountered while building your business?
Juggling where resources are going to go, for sure, hands down. Because we did not want to get funded. It was very important to us that we had full control over our business. Fortunately, we were able to self-fund it. Another business of ours is kind of funneling money into it. But at the same time, it's not like we have like $10 million to like throw around in different departments. And we can't hire like 15 developers full time and do all this, right? And so with the limited, and we had to kind of set a budget for ourselves in terms of like, okay, how much can we realistically put into Alish in a sustainable fashion? It wasn't like, we weren't thinking that, okay, this development of this platform was going to be done within like 3 weeks or a month or even 2 months. This is like a platform that needs constant improvement. More integrations need to be built. It's like one thing after another. And you have to kind of prioritize and think, okay, are we going to spend our money on hiring a new developer, or should we spend money on bringing on a new assistant that will help with operations for a lot of those things? So really looking at that, and we are constantly taking a step back and like refocusing, right? It's kind of like, I try not to plan too far ahead. I find that when I try to like be like, okay, in 5 years I'm going to be there, and therefore in 1 year I'm going to be here, it's just like, I really don't know. It's too far. My brain can't process that. But if I chunk it down into smaller pieces, it's like just following the little breadcrumbs that's in front of me, one step at a time. Like, I don't need to know exactly where I'm going to be 5 years from now. I can dream, and I certainly do dream, but then I just bring myself back to like, okay, here's where I'm at. within, I think in more 90-day chunks, like in about 3 months, I think this is realistic to accomplish. And let's chunk that down into like 1 month, 2-week intervals in terms of like how we can get there. But resource allocation, it has been and still is one of the biggest challenges. And the second one, I think, is the team. Like recruiting people that will stay and that really care about what we are doing here as a company, and that are also A players. Because I think when a company grows, I don't think when a company gets big enough, I don't think you really can keep your entire team as A players. That's really hard. Like, I think I saw somewhere like, oh, if you have like a 10% of A players in your company, that's pretty good. And then B players is what's going to make up the bulk, right? But when a company is as small as ours, we need more A players. Like we really try to keep everybody A players, because like when somebody is not, it shows immediately. And A players want to work with A players, and we want to keep our company small. We don't actually like want to have like a big office with like 100 people. That is not our vision for the company at all. We want to keep it smaller with people that love working with each other. And to get that, and because we're fully remote, we really need A players that like won't slack off, you know what I mean? And so evaluating people based off of that, and yeah, like helping them understand what we are about and getting them to kind of care. This has been, and I think will be for a very long time, a big focus and a challenge.
And you accomplished a lot. So what would you say is your biggest accomplishment until this moment?
That's a big question. So I started out as a dentist. So I am a licensed dentist in 2 countries and all of this. I'm going to say it's what I think is my biggest accomplishment is not something concrete. For me, it is changing my frame of mind from thinking that like my path is set to being a dentist for my entire life, right? Like I really was on that path. Like I went to dental school in Korea, I came here, I went to UCLA dental school again. And it was like, until I started school, I didn't even think that there was a possibility I'd be doing anything else with my life other than doing dentistry. And I thought, well, maybe I would become a little bit of an entrepreneurial dentist. That was the extent of possibility that I saw for myself. And now here I am with a business that is a software business. Like I shifted out completely, and I stopped seeing patients 10 years ago. And so all of this, like the acknowledging the possibility that my life path was not set at that kind of a young age, and realizing, okay, the sunk cost is a sunk cost, which means like the time I spent in my education and the money I spent in my education, sunk cost does not mean I need to stay on that path at all. 10 years, 15 years from now, would I be happy that I took the chance to do something else? Or did I just need to be like, okay, I'm a dentist now, and this is what I do for the rest of my life, like it or not, you know? And so I think opening myself up to different possibilities, that really is the biggest accomplishment for me.
And were there any key decisions you made that led to that specific success?
While I was a few months before graduating from dental school in UCLA, this is where all of this started for me. A friend of mine gave me or introduced me to the 4-Hour Workweek, the classic entrepreneurial book, right? And I had so much lab work to do. I was spending long nights in the UCLA dental lab, finishing up my patient requirements and doing all of my lab work with earbuds, listening to Tim Ferriss. And I was just like, oh my God, this was like earth-shattering for me. I thought, I was on such a linear path in my life. Like, this is what I do. I go to dental school and I did well in school, and I excelled, and here I am. Did I necessarily think about what life would be working as a dentist for 20, 30 years? No, I did not. that was not in my consideration when I became to become a dentist. I will very frankly say I chose that path because I did well enough in high school to be able to go through that path. This was in South Korea, so the culture is very different. It's kind of like if you do well in your, let's say, Korean version of SAT, if you do well enough there, then it's just kind of what you do. You go to med school, you'll go to dental school. So I was just kind of just following blindly along what the possibilities
And so,
were,
excuse me,
or as
if you
I
can
saw what my
tell
possibilities
tell to
were.
people a
But
little
little
bit more about the mindset in South Korea regarding education. So you are a very, very specific country. You're the only country in the world, maybe, with pupils having
Mhm.
two schools every day. So even private ones. So if you can, I don't understand the whole concept. If you can share a little bit more, why it so difficult for you to change your mindset and to make that leap of faith?
Mhm. So, for anybody that is not familiar with the South Korean education craze and just culture around education, it has been akin to the pressure cooker model, where from when kids are very young, and we're talking 4 or 5 years old, or maybe even three, they're kind of being trained to be good students, to learn, like to learn to read and write and do math in like a very young age. And all of this is it's like the pride of the parents, and what like one school leads to the next school, right? Primary school leads to the middle school leads to the high school. And if you do well in high school, now you get to go to a good college. And it's kind of like where you go to college and like what you major in, it kind of dictates your life. That's the mindset there. And so from a very young age, they're seriously, not jokingly, but seriously talking about, yeah, my daughter's going to grow up and be a doctor, or she's going to go to this so and so college, like university. This is so very prevalent. And so from a very, very young age, they're going to private tutors, institutions. It's like going to school is just not enough. And even school, like sometimes there's like the official school time, right? And then there's a before school class, and then there's an after school class, and then there's after school like self-study time. But that's not, it's like optional, but it's not optional. Like you have to. So yeah. And then you would go through that, and then you would go to your private institution or whatever to learn more math, because somehow what you were taught in school was not enough. And you have to go more ahead because everybody else is doing that. So if you don't do that, you're falling behind. Seriously, kids, it's very common for like middle school, high school kids to leave home around 6, 7 a.m. and not come back to close to midnight. And you just go to sleep and repeat. It is insanity.
So what was your transformation from that mindset to new mindset of entrepreneur in the States and the global entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, it started from the 4-hour work week. Like that really was my little like opening to all of those things. That was the first audiobook I ever listened to. That was the first business book I ever listened to. That was the first, yeah, that was actually even the first nonfiction book that I ever listened to. Ever since then, I'm like a total like, I'm always listening to books and like listening to podcasts. So it was like a foray into like, okay, look what else is out there. And then from there, it's like, okay, oh my gosh, there's that book over there and that book over there. And it was just like continuing to find more resources and just seeing possibilities of a life where I felt I could be a little more free and enjoy the deliciousness of life instead of going through the grind of life and working just so very hard day after day. Like I was in that mindset, but I really do attribute all of my entire entrepreneurial journey to that book that I was listening to in the lab. And I was dating my husband, now husband at the time we were dating. And I just remember like I was listening to the book and I would call him and be like, I have found the Bible for life. Like this. Should be a required reading or listening for everybody, because like if you don't even know that this kind of life is a possibility, you just don't know what you don't know. Like I really like the model of how you think about like there's what you know and there's what you don't know, and then there's a big chunk of what you don't know that you don't know. And that the entrepreneurial journey for me was that 4-hour work week was like the first like opening, like, okay, look over there. There is this giant world that you don't know anything about, and you didn't know that you didn't know anything about it. And life is going to be a lot more exciting for you over there than what you're doing over here.
So what would you say is the biggest advantage of using courses to build your business? I mean not your business, but my business, the business of any entrepreneur listening at the moment.
For sure. Let me first start from what happened to me in my journey. So I was in UCLA and I graduated, and I was kind of like, well, I did graduate, and I was kind of like, okay, I want to do this thing, but I don't exactly know what it's going to be yet and all this. And I did start working as a dentist first. And while I was working as a dentist, but like I was getting all these like inbound people asking me for help with their applications and with their, let's say, teeth cutting skills. I'll just kind of say it that way. Because just like me, there are a lot of dentists that were trained internationally that need to get their licenses here in the US. But to do so, you have to go back to school for the later 2 years. That's usually what they do. But to get into that program was insanely, insanely competitive. You had to not only pass a lot of tests and whatnot, but you also had to show your ability to cut teeth to the US standard. It's very exacting, and it is so very different from most other parts of the world. And training for that is a really big stressor for those people. And it was for me as well. So I had to practice a lot. And the year I got accepted at UCLA, I got accepted at a lot of other schools. And so I actually was, at the position where I could choose from one of the 9 schools that I got accepted to, like, where do I want to go? That was my second year of application, by the way. The first year I got accepted nowhere. And the second year I was like, if I don't make it this year, I'm back to Korea. Just bye-bye America. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I put all I had into this process, and I got accepted to so many different places that, friends and friends of friends just started to like ask me for help. And so I started to help them like one by one on like their application editing and their bench test prep. It's called the bench test, the tooth cutting bench test preparation. And I was doing that. And then we were like, we could make this into a more formatted course and, do that. And I can spend less time doing one-on-one. And that is how this all started for me and so my husband had this idea, and he is really the person that pushed me into thinking how this could happen, because dentistry is not taught online through a course. It is not. You see somebody cutting, and holding, how to properly hold a handpiece. It's all done in person. And he was like, no, there has to be a way to be able to deliver this information virtually. And I was like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. This is dentistry. It's hands-on. You learn in person. He was like, no, really think about it. And I think this went on for a while. And then it started to formulate, like when an idea marinates inside you for a while, you start getting little glimpses of what it could become potentially, possibly. And that started to form in terms of like, oh my God, this could be a thing. And so we figured out how to film and I'll do all this stuff, which was a big deal, but like we did it and we produced an entire course. Okay, back up. We did not produce the entire course. We put up a page to our email list and said, hey, would you be interested in such a thing if we had it? If you are, here's the place to pay. And once you pay, I think I gave myself like a month, like in 30 days from now, for 2 weeks, you're going to get a new like module released. And that was a promise. And we were like, okay, let's see what happens. If we get however many sales, I don't remember anymore. But if we make that number of sales, we will shoot this course. And if we don't, we won't. We'll just send them the money back and be like, okay, sorry, we just didn't have enough interest. When that happened, I remember we sent out that email and then we went to the melting pot. We were having a little nice dinner and we were both really nervous and just couldn't put our phones down, checking constantly. And we hit the number of sales that we set for ourselves within the dinner time. And we were like, oh my God, we have something here. Like, people need this. And so that's when it all started for us. And so if you're wondering what it can do for your business, so much. If you're anybody that works with somebody else, or imparts your wisdom in any sort of way, and you find yourself repeating the same thing over and over again, you say the same phrase over and over again, you take a client through the same process to show them how they can go from here to there over and over again, you have a course waiting to happen in you. And not only is it beneficial to them because they can repeat and watch it over and over again, because nobody learns something by listening to it just once, but you are going to free up so much time. And like I did over that dinner, making that number of sales that we set for ourselves over that dinner, you have something where you can just be outside hanging out, having a coffee, and you're going to get these Stripe notifications, ching, where you get like these new sales. And it is such a good feeling to be able to know that, okay, like if I, have any emergencies and I just can't do these, whatever, I can't tend to my business in the same intensity that I would always like to, it's okay. It's okay because I will always have that income. It is so, so beneficial to mostly, I think, like courses, but also for a lot of other businesses, like even for new employee onboarding, to get them on to understand your culture and how things are done. Even your like process documentation can be used. You can use courses to do that part as well. And for like SaaS businesses too, I think Moz is a really good example. Moz is like a big SEO kind of company that, is it Moz? I think so. I might be wrong, but they created their own online course about SEO using their software. And then they were like, oh my gosh, people are signing up for this. So they started selling that separately. Like, you don't have to use their software with that course. You can, or you don't have to, but that seriously fueled their business. So it's like, just if you sit back and really imagine and don't even think about it as a course, what content that you pre-create and put it in this container, whether it is text or video or whatever, can do for your business in any different capacity, I think you'll be surprised with what comes up. I had so much fun with you today, Martin. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope your listeners got something interesting out of our conversation today. And if anybody wants to check out Owlish, our platform, and get 2 months free of our pro plan, you can head over to owlish.com/21CE. That's Owlish with 2 W's, so OWWLISH/21CE, short for 21st Century Entrepreneurship. And just put in your name and email address and we'll get back to you with all the rest.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.